Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back on the path to the Mogami. And we're on the Tier 5, which means we're on the Aoba. One of my least favorite ships to play in this game. It is absolutely abysmal to play the ship. And yeah, with that being said, let's get to the commander. We're running Azure Lane Atago with Nikolai Kuznetsov and Charles Madden as our inspirations. We have Beyond Range, Arsonist, Punch Through, Fixated, and Refill Station as our commander perks. Alright, let's look at the loadout. We're running Aiming Systems Mod 1, and we're running Steering Gears Mod 2. We are fully upgraded. We are running the Community Contributor Flag and the Rust Bucket Camo. We are using the Sonar rather than the AA. Now, before we get into stats, I keep forgetting to showcase other builds for this, so I apologize. But we're going to put up the Cruiser Commanders and just go over these real quick. So, Isiroko Yamamoto you guys saw on the first, but I use Nikolai Kuznetsov and Charles Madden as our inspiration, and Beyond Range, Igniter, Velocious for extra speed rather than the AP, but you could use the Punch Through as well, and then Fixated with Fully Packed. Okay, I've not used Togo Heiichiro or whatever for a while. I actually only ranked this guy up solely because of the Bureau. But Eric Bay, Jersey Swirsky, we were going with like a sneaky build. Of course, Eric Bay only works for destroyers, I believe. Yeah, so you could pull this off, put in Kuznetsov or whatever. But this is just your base commander. So burn it down. Look at me now. Could go with the crisscross here rather than this if you want to, go for, less concealment. Get those guns rotating a little faster. Velocious, obviously. Could go with Hidden Threat, but honestly, you don't really need to. Actually, no, I don't know why this is here. This is not something you want to run. This is for torpedo bombers. But yeah, you could go with these, but honestly, because of the crappy torpedo angles, you don't really need to. So Velocious is the better choice here. Again, you don't need to run a concealment build here with Jersey Swirsky. You could go with Charles Madden and Kuznetsov again, which is what I usually use on all of mine. And then, of course, you have Reaching Out XXL, which is the one that I would go for rather than Steering Gears. You could go with Will to Rebuild, which could be an interesting little perk for this. But this is definitely not the best build for these cruisers. Arpeggio, I haven't actually done this build. I think I ranked it up solely because of the steering gears, right? Your cruisers, I guess it's AA. It's kind of weird. Toss and turn. Yeah, so you improve the damage of your cruiser's AA guns and improve your ship's steering ability. Okay. But yeah, I haven't really done anything with that. I kind of ranked it up just to the normal part where you get to like 11. But, I mean, you got the same stuff that you normally would. A lot of people like the Ingenious skill. I personally don't use it. But Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, Fixated, and Refill Station. I mean, it's basically the same as Atago, except you don't get the fancy skill. You go with Sear, you get increased main battery traverse speed of your cruiser and increased torpedo detectability range. So again, this would actually help with the traverse speed because the traverse speed is pretty bad on these. But again, I don't think this is the better build. I think the Atago build is probably the best. If you don't have Atago, then probably go with Isiroko Yamamoto. And then Gunichi Mikawa, I have not used him either. He's the sponge build for the cruisers. As you can see, gets better concealment for cruisers. But again, you would have Burn It Down or Ingenious, depending on what you prefer. Full speed ahead gives you extra speed. And then, of course, you could go with either Velocious for even more speed, or go with, like, Fortified Sponge. I don't think I've ever used, but it's not a bad trait. And then, of course, Steer Clear would probably be the one I go for there. And then Fully Packed. And then, of course, my Commander inspirations, once again, would be Kuznetsov and Madden. So, those are all the builds that I know of, but like I said, the number one builds that you're going to be using. If you have a Tago, probably go with a Tago. If you don't, go with Hisaroko Yamamoto for the better, builds. Though I have seen people running like Makawa for speed, and it gets pretty ridiculous. So, I mean, it's up to you. So let's get into the stats. With our current build, we have 31,900 hit points and a 4% torpedo damage reduction. The main battery, you have 203mm third-year types. You have 6 of those that reach out 16.6 kilometers. They reload in 9.7 seconds, which is actually really good. The 180-degree turn time is getting slightly better, but still at 28.6 is awful for a cruiser. HE shell maximum damage is 3630, with a 25% chance to set fire. Once again, showing that Arsonist perk. Ridiculous. AP shell maximum damage 5076. Secondaries, you have the 120mm 10th year types. You have 4 of those reaching out to 4.7 kilometers, reloading every 6 seconds, with a maximum HE shell damage of 2000 and a 16% chance to set fires. Torpedo launchers, you have 8 of them. I lied. You have 8 total torpedoes, but it's 2 quad launchers, one on either side of the ship. 610mm torpedoes, they reload in 102 seconds. They have a 16,267 maximum damage with a 1.3 kilometer detectability on those torpedoes. And the torpedo range is 10 kilometers with a 59 knot top speed. AA defense, you have 30 25mm guns that do 75 damage per second and reach out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you have the 25mm Type 96 Mod 1s that are in a triple turret that you have 6 of that do 12 damage per second and reach out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you have the 120mm 10th year types that you have 4 of that do 20 damage per second and reach out to 4.5 kilometers. Maneuverability, maximum speed is 35 knots with this build. The turning circle isn't the best at 710 meters. It's right there at the same as Alabama or Massachusetts, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood. 5.2 second rudder shift isn't amazing, but isn't bad. Concealment detectability range by sea is 10.8 kilometers, so not bad. Detectability by air 6.8 kilometers. Guaranteed detectability of 2. And detectability while firing in smoke is 6.3 kilometers. Armor. Again, you have a little bit of armor. You've got 16mm bow, which can be overmatched by anything of 228mm and above. Let me just double check this. I always say this and then I screw it up. So 14.3 times 16. Yeah, 228.8mm and above to overmatch your bow. So basically anything battleship caliber and above is going to overmatch. Okay? We get rid of that and we go look at your, well, let's look at your side armor. You still have that 25mm of belt armor, even though it's literally the entire side of the center of the ship, which is a double-edged sword because it will both get you out of trouble and kill you at the same time, because battleship shells will almost always arm inside your citadel. So keep that in mind. If we get rid of the guns, you can see that the citadel, under the guns on both sides, is well below water, no issues there. The problem is that you still have that raised citadel right in the center of the ship, so any shells that pin at the center line of this ship are going to citadel you and absolutely send you back to port. Which is the one downside of this ship, and this ship is absolutely the worst in this line. I hate this ship. Cannot stand this ship. But Pyromania, above average chance of HE shells to cause a fire. Superior HE shell damage, above average HE shell damage. And Sluggish aim, below average main battery traverse speed. Aoba represented a further development of the Furutaka with main battery guns placed in twin turrets to achieve a larger gun range, or a longer gun range. Moreover, she outstripped her predecessors in torpedo armament power and AA defense. She entered service in 1927. There were 2 of them in the series. So let's take a look at her. I don't mind the look of this ship. It's got more of a modern, cruiser look, but it's definitely a big ship. And there's a lot of this ship sticking above the water, and that citadel just guarantees you die. Like, it's almost a given that you're going to get citadeled by something big at some point during a match. I kind of make a joke about this ship that it literally doesn't start working until it loses 2/3 of itself in a single salvo. Like, that's just the way this ship is. So with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Neighbors, which is actually a great map for the Japanese cruisers, because it gives you a lot of islands to potentially use for shooting. It also allows you to maneuver your ship and keep distance between you and potential threats. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to kind of get up in there. You guys know that I tend to be probably one of the most aggressive players in the game. And so, even in these things, I tend to be aggressive. And that comes back and bites me every single time, pretty much. Because it only takes 1 salvo. I've said it a million times. This thing is literally a guaranteed citadel for any battleship. It's almost a guaranteed depth strike. It's not quite a guaranteed depth strike, but it's almost a guaranteed depth strike for battleships. Because it's such an easy citadel to hit. It's right in the center of the ship, right at the waterline. Anywhere between the waterline and halfway up the deck, you've got citadels and you've got death. And so this ship has a knack for being extremely, really good until it gets sent back to port, which is usually pretty quickly. Now, I also have a tendency to lose 2/3 of my health in like early in the match, and then I end up picking it up from there, and then having a pretty solid game after that. But the problem with this ship is it's just so darn squishy, man. It doesn't matter which part of your ship gets hit. It seems like it's a guaranteed citadel. We're going to showcase that later in the match, too. But anyway, we've got a Tennessee out here. We've got a Königsberg, I believe, is right next to him. But we're going to try to get shot. Now, we got a pretty favorable match here with in terms of how many battleships are against us. But there is a Grafspee out there as well. So there's 3 technical battleship caliber guns. Technically, there's 3 battleship caliber guns. Now, watch this play. This is where these Japanese cruisers are very, very interesting. Because I launched those torpedoes out just trying to anticipate what's going to happen with this Tennessee. I have no idea what he's going to do, as we get some of the worst RNG you're ever going to see out of a Japanese heavy cruiser. Like, generally speaking, these heavy cruisers are absolutely accurate as crap. They get some of the best accuracy in the game in terms of just being able to hit multiple rounds. And so the first couple of salvos were horrible. But look at what this guy's doing. He is literally playing right into exactly what I was hoping he was going to do, which was turn out and give me the broadside of his ship. We get a double fire on him, and then he's going to take 2 torpedoes as well. He fires his guns at us, we turn out, we take very minimal damage there, but we have already taken most of this man's health. Now, unfortunately, he did have his damage con available, so he is going to be able to get rid of the flood and the fires. Actually, we didn't even get a flood. He took the damage control right as the torpedoes were hitting, so I didn't get the floods there. But either way, we're looking for the fire. As we go behind the island, he's going to drop spot. We're still spotted because of the Grimyashi, and so we hope that this gives us a fire, and it does give us a perma-fire. Now, we take a shot at the Grimyashi over here, just in case that he gets away, because he killed our destroyer, but you'll see that our friendly Laga gets him over there, so that's good. He goes down. They've lost 2 destroyers already. We've lost a destroyer and 2 cruisers already. Now, we're going to push into this Tennessee. It's going to take a little bit of time to get around this island, but the goal here is, we know he's burning permanently right now, and so we're going to try to sneak up on this man and catch him while he's firing at everybody else. You can see he's shooting across the map at our cruisers and stuff that are in the center, or destroyers potentially, whoever he's shooting at. He's shooting it over there, which means his guns are not going to be turned towards us. So we should be able to sneak around this corner and start to pound this guy. Now, I thought that this man was going to die quickly. I was wrong. He doesn't die quickly. Look at this first salvo here. This guy is on fire. I think he may be getting ready to put it out. And we hit him and we get him down to nothing. The guy is still burning. He's basically dead. Nobody else can seemingly hit the man. And we finally get another shot and we leave him on just enough to get a full freaking chance. He's healing is what he's doing. He's triggered a heal, which is why he's still alive. We keep stripping away every little bit that we can off of him, but we keep leaving him with just enough to eventually get a full broadside away at 7 kilometers from us as he dies, and we turn in, but he's guaranteed to absolutely smash us. Now, I don't think he got a citadel there. I think he actually got just a whole bunch of penetrations because we were so close. But here you can see I'm starting to focus the Congo down. I'm going to try to get rid of him. It's unfortunate that we end up in a match with 2 battleships and we end up having to fight both of the battleships in our freaking cruiser. Because our team just isn't able to get anything out of them. With 4 destroyers on our team, you'd have thought that, well, I guess we had 3 destroyers on our team. You'd have thought that we'd have been able to, you know, torpedo some battleships, but clearly that was not their ambition. Now, I was originally going to push out behind this island and keep going, but in just a couple of seconds here, you're going to notice that somebody gets spotted right next to our base in a destroyer, and we have to double back and defend the base. Right there. He's spotted in a destroyer going into our base. Now, I'm going to try to ping the freaking base here, and this is something that I think the developers should work on. If you're watching this, developers, this is something that needs to be worked on. When I'm trying to ping the base, it should be the priority, okay? I'm not trying to ping the 3 ships that's between me and the base. I'm literally clicking on the freaking base and trying to use that to, like, signify to my team that we need to defend the base. And it is literally clicking on everybody but the freaking base. That is one of the most obnoxious things in this game. So what happens? I have to go into my freaking party, leave the party, go into game chat, and say, guys, defend the base, for God's sakes, you got a destroyer captain in the base right next to you. Right? So Congo turns away from us. We're heading back towards the base. We've got no chance of getting there in time. We're just trying to head back in case somebody is able to stop it. Now, both of our destroyers in the middle, one of them is within 1 square of the center of the freaking, like, base. Like, come on, man. Turn that ship around. And he's not even bothering. Look at him. He's not even bothering to turn around. The one closest to me he's turned around and heading back. But the one that's closest to the base, the one that should be the guy that actually goes and defends the base, isn't even bothering. Look at him, he's 13 kilometers from us, and he's right next to the base. You can see I'm finally able to ping the match, and it's pretty soon here that I'm going to actually jump in and turn my, yeah, there goes the party, and jump in and take myself into team chat and go, guys, defend the goddamn base, please. This is a decent game, for God's sakes. Defend the base. We're not going to lose like this. But thank goodness we are actually going to have our teammate here who came from the furthest away. Remember that. This guy was as far away as I was and turned all the way around and went back to the base, and he's going to make it in time. Meanwhile, our other destroyer has been sitting in the center of the freaking map this entire time doing absolutely nothing but just launching torps every 35 seconds in his kamikaze. Because that's what they do. And he's not hitting anything. He's missed every freaking torpedo salvo because he's launching from maximum range. But you can see we're still trying to engage. We're shooting at the Graf Spee, we're shooting at the Congo, and as soon as this destroyer gets spotted, we're going to be shooting at him as well. Fubuki gets spotted. Our California here is going to be able to hopefully split the gap on these torpedoes. We get a fire on the Congo, and we are able to split the gap easily. We had the biggest gap ever. And so we turn in, we shoot at him with the front guns, and we get a really nice salvo, knocking out his engine. That's going to keep him from running away too much. And then, of course, we're going to fire again and knock out the rest. Well, I say that as he gets away. He does disappear slightly, and then he gets spotted again. Our front guns hit him, and we're able to take this man down with a fire. But then we have the Gorky here coming into the base. So we go ahead and we start focusing him down. So this went from okay, we've got to be aggressive and push up and try to win our side, to, okay, we've got to fall back and do everything we can to defend the base as we pick up our high caliber already. 81,000 damage done in this match already. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's not that it's a bad ship. It's just that it's so freaking squishy that I hate playing it. Like, it's so freaking squishy. The HE slaps real hard, sets all the fires in the world. Gorky goes down to the Getty. Again, that Getty was the guy that was actually talking in chat, and he's the one that actually went back and defended the base, rather than the kamikaze who seems to not be able to think and breathe at the same time, who sat in the middle of the cap for 10 minutes and tried to do whatever he could to torp things and completely failed. Now, here is something different. I was going to start focusing the battleship because obviously he's the biggest threat to me, generally speaking, so I was going to focus him. However, the guy that went back and defended the base asked that I start focusing the Pensacola first. And so, to oblige him for doing what I needed him to do, which is go back and defend the base, or at least spot him so that we could reset him or whatever, to oblige that, I go ahead and start firing at the Pensacola. You know, if a guy asks you to do something and he just helped you out, guess what? I'm going to do it. Because sometimes it's all about it. And we actually get a good salvo from our teammate in the California who took most of the Pensacola's health. And then I radio in that this guy's probably done in this salvo. And sure enough, we finish him off. Now, obviously, we're going to turn to the Congo. The Congo gets some HE on us. Not that big of a threat. Again, I don't know why they do it, but unfortunately, there's also that Graf Spee out there. Remember, battleship caliber guns don't go well for our ship. And the Graf Spee has 6 in a 2-turret configuration. 6 283mm guns. So it does overmatch us. So my goal here is to keep my distance, and I thought these were going to be some, like, miracle torpedoes. I launched those torpedoes so long ago, I thought that Congo was going to double back into him, but unfortunately he manages to get out of the way of it. And it was funny because it happened so long ago, I forgot that I launched them. I was like, oh my god, these might actually hit. But no, they didn't hit. And here's where I start to make mistakes. Okay, I don't recognize that our California is going behind the island. I don't know why he's going behind the island, but he does. So the only thing that these guys have to shoot at is me. Our destroyers are in smoke screens and not able to be shot at very easily, and so it's just me. So here I am with 10,000 hit points, charging in at a freaking battleship and a battleship caliber cruiser. So we're going to try to help finish this Congo off. We're looking at him. He gets a permanent fire against him, and then I'm going to get a decent salvo of HE into him. 2 penetrations, and that's the fluke shot of the freaking century. That Graf Spee's armor-piercing round hit exactly on the freaking very bow. Like, if I had a figurehead, that's where that round landed. And it goes in and hits my Citadel. Really? And you can see by the chat that I was not thrilled about this, because it's such a fluky freaking Citadel. How are you going to give a man a Citadel for hitting the bow of my ship? Like, it had to be at such a weird angle that it still went down and hit the Citadel, but it's so frustrating. But that is exactly that is like the most perfect ending to a beautiful game to showcase this ship that you could ever ask for. Like, that is exactly what you can expect out of this ship 9 times out of 10. It will do really, really well until it doesn't, and then you go back to port, because that's the way these freaking Japanese cruisers are. They are almost guaranteed Citadels. There's nothing that battleships... there's no cruisers in the game that battleship players prefer to shoot at more than Japanese heavy cruisers. Because the Japanese heavy cruisers are guaranteed Citadels. Like, you just almost never overpin them. It's almost always Citadel City on them. As long as your shells hit center of mass, anywhere between the waterline and like halfway up the deck, it is Citadel City, and almost always a beautiful thing. Now, obviously, a Graf Spee versus a California, this shouldn't even be a contest. This California should absolutely wreck this man. But it is going to be a little bit sketchy here, because obviously Graf is within 6 kilometers. We know he gets those torpedoes. He gets, what, 2 triple launchers per side, so he's going to have 6 torpedoes come in your direction. And Cali knows it. To his credit, the Cali turns out. He's going to put himself in a position to dodge those torpedoes, despite the fact that he has some of the best torpedo protection in the game. And he just needs another decent salvo to take this guy down. He fires the rear guns, doesn't get a whole lot out of it. You gotta love that. And then, of course, he's going to swing out and try to hit the front guns here any second. And when he does this, it's actually going to keep him out of the way of the torpedoes, because torpedoes are going to be spotted relatively soon, I think. Any moment now. But as you can see, he turns forward to get the front guns on. He gets a nice hit out of it. There's the torpedoes, and he should have the rear guns anytime to finish off the Graf Spee. There it is. And he managed to dodge the torpedoes and kill the Graf Spee. So in the end, we end up winning the match, despite the fact that it was not quite the ending that I'd hoped for. 2100 base XP, 3 kills, top of the leaderboard. You can't really argue with it. It was a pretty solid game. 98,000 damage, high cal. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.